did. So beautiful game from Mir and Sejong.
I also wanted to give credit to Harami Bro because we saw them get aggressive against Reagan's Gaming after their like kind of skirmish with Team Spirit towards Ruins. And I kind of respect that as well because Harami Bro didn't qualify from your normal PMSL SCA, right? They're not necessarily playing against the best teams of the region, yet they're playing like they have the confidence of the best team from the region, making very smart strategic plays. So I really had to give him a shout out there, Max, because you have to respect when teams go for plays like that because it was probably the right move to make in that situation.
I don't know, Jason, if I would say confidence, more like very opportunistic. They're like, you're weakened. 3 eliminations, maybe. We push. Of course, all the teams are trying to leave the Ruins area, and especially the southern hill like area of Ruins. You see teams are wounded. You see the elimination feed light up. You're going to send it to clear that entire high ground position. It was a very, very good play. But it's not enough for me to be like, oh yeah, I'm on the Harami Bro hype train. I need to a bit more, but it's a good little start. It's a good little avant-bouche, you know? It's great. Yeah.
Sorry, can you say that in English?
No.
No. What about BTR? The Bigatron Knights, Hot Jukes. We saw them. They were kind of gatekeeping Vampire a little bit, but they did make the smart macro play to transition towards Trifecta and kind of like gain a lot of information there, and also, more importantly, more rotational paths for them to go through.
I mean, I think that was the best option they had. I mean, they land on that, on that northeastern island. When it comes to Sandhawk, they're just hoping the zone goes there, right? If the zone goes to that island, they're going to have a monster game. If it doesn't, they're going to just try to put up any kind of points they did. And they did. So, I mean, they got 3 more Aaron Gales coming up next. I think they're just going to shake it off and just get back to work.
Okay. Shake it off. Maybe like Alpha 7, Max, we saw them go in a head-to-head clash against Aura Esports, which I didn't expect to see any sort of fight like that happening. They did lose, I believe, 2 off the back of that one. Alpha 7, not to say that Hot Jukes started to curse some teams, but, it's not looking too good so far.
Hey, it's not me. I'll take it. Nobody's blaming me yet. That's a win. McGrillen able to clutch, actually, with a DBS, able to keep the team alive a little bit longer, nice. But with how the rotation was going, they were trying to go for a wide wrap, which I would say Hot Jukes is a respectable play when you only have 2 players trying to just survive at that point. Unfortunately, they send it right into Major Pride, which, as we saw, had a game-winning position. So if there was no one there, maybe it goes out their way. But as we saw, a 2-man crash onto Major Pride is just not going to work out. But it's the first game. It's a Sanhok 2. We know they're really good when it comes to Miramar and Erangel. So let them cook. They'll be good. Yeah.
Young Taisho.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
what's your expectations?
All the way over there near Lamb Campine. Yeah.
Going into Erangel coming up next, as we have back-to-back Erangel's, Hot Jukes. What's your kind of expectations here for these teams and how it potentially could play out?
Well, I think we're going to see something totally different here in Erangel. I mean, Sandhawk is one of those maps where if you get Circle, you got to capitalize on it. Erangel is that like perfect chess map, where it really just proves those mistakes. One little tiny mistake just snowballs there. So, I'm looking to see.
I think we're having some
where these circles are going to go. Are we going to get some military zones?
Max,
how are these teams going to react? And we're just showing like the speed is crazy. Oh,
or maybe I lagged out that time.
I got him at the end now.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. You know what I want? You want me to tell you what's going to be different between Sanhok and Erangel, Jason? You want me to tell you?
Yes.
The map. No, okay. No, seriously, it's going to be a longer game, so I think we're going to be seeing potentially more wide wraps here from some squads, because of course Sanhok it's a lot quicker when it gets down to it. So here's really why I expect our big names, Jason, to really stand out the most, like your Vampires, your Alpha 7s, all of that. I think this is the time they are going to shine as much as possible. So yeah, Erangel, it's a trial and tested map. It's the true OG map, okay, that everyone knows like the back of their hand. So we're going to get back to a sense of like normality very soon, Jason. So like, trust, it's going to work out.
And I think, obviously we have to have a little caveat when it comes to Sandhawk, and again, seeing like these 4 teams being our top 4. Mir and Sejong, I mean, they got themselves in a good position, but let's be honest, the zone did shift to them like time and time again. Like they really didn't have to move. They had 2 compounds, the 2-2 split, and they regrouped on the compound that'd be more favorable in their zone. Obviously just 1 match done, but I want to see how they're gonna have to play from a really bad position to get back into these zones, because that's, I think, gonna be the real test of these teams. If a lot of teams are gonna start trying to play center, if you're slow in the rotate, you have to then fight your way from the outside in.
They did have a little bit of circle luck here, Jason. I definitely have to agree.
Bit,
but
yeah.
you're making your luck when you have these central 2-2 splits. You just regroup on the team that has the better position, which every time, I think they did that twice this game where they had 2-2 splits. They had 2 players in ruins, 2 players in the compound southwest of ruins, regroup on the southern western compound, then do another split on the next circle and regroup on the compound that we saw allow them to make it to the top 3 scenario of this Sanhok game. So if you have 2-2 splits and you end up having one team in the circle, you're making your own luck here. And that's why MSJ is looking so good, in my opinion, because they are able to adapt on so many different fronts. They're able to play wide rotates. They're able to play center, edge. They can play aggressive. They can play passive. Like, really, I think this is possibly going to be one of the biggest surprises of this group. Hopefully, I don't curse them for the rest of this group for Group Yellow. But really, they have showed to me true potential back in their home region. So I just hope it's going to work out for the rest of this international tournament.
Hodrix, I know you did some prep coming into this about like agreed upon drop locations. Do you want to kind of walk us through where we expect teams to be dropping and any potential clashes that could happen?
For sure. I mean, there's so many different areas. I mean, teams are going to have their backup locations, all kinds of different stuff. But, you know, I'm going to be looking towards that crates area. You got Vampire looking to possibly drop there, and I want to see how they play it out. And we're going to find out right now.
Yeah, let's head on back to our casters with John on a blank to take us into match 2.
We are headed into the first of many Aaron goals, I'm sure, still to come. What a great way to kick things off for Major Pride back on Sanhok, but now we're looking to the future once more as we head in for match number 2 here for Group Yellow.
Match number 2 coming at you. We got Aaron Goal, and then more Aaron Goal for you. So we got a triple billing coming very shortly, but we're going to start things off nice and calm. The circle over towards that western side. We do have teams dropping out very early down towards Sosnova because you've got 3 teams actually down towards this area. The map, Bro Harame, Muerte, as well as the Loops. Not a huge amount of space here, John, actually, for these teams to play in. It's a bit awkward, I would say, a lot of times. Yeah, 2 teams is okay. I mean, you get Nova Noya, you've got military base on C block, but then one team has to sort of play that awkward location around the eastern bridge, which doesn't have a massive amount of loot, and a lot of times you're worried about teams like De Muerte currently taking shots over towards you with the high ground that is offered. It depends how quickly De Muerte decide to loot up Nova Noya, though, as that is where the majority of the loot will be had. For Loops, though, this is more a case of taking vehicles off the hands of De Muerte and potentially getting up towards that eastern side, which has worked out really well. They control a huge amount of space now.
Yeah, it looks like Muerte got to be a little bit further south, so no conflict there. Inco in the middle of the map. You see them dropping. Worried about their potential progression into this one, but they hop into the monster truck and no one too close. DX Xavier a little bit further south near a Pachinki, but won't be able to get sightlines early enough to stop this rotation. And it is all about the vehicle grabs on these early drops with this sort of a playing path, right? You do need to be getting on board very, very quickly, getting on the road as fast as you can, because it's going to be very condensed for a while. The circle, pretty chill right now, which means that no real pressure on that front, but you do not want to stay too close to everyone else for too long.
So on our screens right now, we've got Mirren J Song. Honestly, very, very good team. I was very, very happy with how they played out that last game. I mean, in terms of the rotations, it felt very comfortable to them. Albeit the fact of the matter is that they had a lot of space to play on that northern side. As we saw, John, a lot of teams took that eastern crossing, which leads me to believe that this is somewhat of a careful lobby, which makes sense to me. You don't really want to get yourself stuck into too many difficult scenarios. And it comes with qualifications as well, right? Only 3 spots towards that top side for the guaranteed. You don't want to be making too many mistakes. You'd rather get those consistent points on board. When we have qualification spots that drop down towards 7th place, sometimes it's a little bit more acceptable to make those gambles, which is why the team spirit play felt a little bit weird, though I think they realized more than anything they didn't have a lot of time to make those rotates, so they send over towards ruins. But I'm glad they did that. I'm actually glad they did that. I think it's one of the things that Team Spirit struggles with the most a lot of times is just making clear-cut decisions, right? Or it's a case of, oh, do we go here? Do we go there?
Exactly the gold that they were looking for, but they'll take it. They'll take the 1 point. It's better than Inco, which is You know,
Yeah, that is a that was a crashing ship, honestly, right there. And the captain was told multiple times to turn the ship 15 degrees to the left.
That's to the port.
To the port, and he refused.
Yeah. It's like, actually,
Leeward.
kind of like starboard right now.
Yeah. Oh, to the left would be yeah,
Port side.
Port side.
Port side, starboard. Port side named such because, in general, ships always docked on their left side, so the port would always be on the left. No clue why it's called starboard, though. So
yeah, then it gets complicated with leeward and all this stuff as well. Where I honestly just stick to port and starboard. I mean, I guess if they really need to know the lands on the left-hand side, it makes sense, I suppose.
yeah, I'm not going to criticize. I'm sure the navies know what they're doing. You know, the various navies around the world.
The boat lingo does go crazy because they are just like, there's a lot of things in the real world for directions, but we're gonna have our own little cool club.
To be fair, when you're at sea, there's just no reference point, so direction is very hard.
It's like being
to
in
describe.
space.
It's exactly like that. It's the same thing.
It's the space of the land.
It's the space of That's right. That's what I've always said.
And we have it's unexplored. I think it's 98.7% unexplored. Is that the actual statistic?
That's pretty spooky.
Yeah. How much sea is unexplored?
Probably
and then I'll get
at
back
least
to the game.
90% of it. Yeah. Well, we've got to figure this out.
Over 80%.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
I reckon more percentage of space hasn't been explored, though. So
some people say 95. I'm pretty sure it's around about 98%, though. I think that's the actual statistic.
I've explored it.
I bet you have. You're a dolphin.
Yeah, that's me.
You're the dolphin of the land.
I'm the dolphin of the land. And so we're going to dive back on into this match. Tails are flipping. Twisted Minds on board on the west side. Sorry, on the port side. You just have to
experience the terror of the ocean really quickly. It is Halloween, after all.
It's Lovecraftian.
Yeah. Oh, we could do so much with that, but we're not because we're at PMGC, so we got to talk about these teams. I think Major Pride's definitely the big surprise for us here. 25 points. They're a strong team, though. They are a strong team. I do like all the players on that squad. Major Pride, not what it once was in terms of the players there. It has gone through a lot of iterations, and a fair few of these players were sort of unknowns for us maybe 2 years ago. But now they have certainly made a name for themselves here going into PMGC, which is very, very nice to see. And it's always sparks confidence, right? When a team tries to crash into you and you just absolutely obliterate them and go from there. Definitely gave Major Pride that little bit of extra oomph going in towards that final zone. They're super happy with it as well. You can see how passionate the players are to be here at PMGC.
As they should be. It's a bit of an honor to be able to make it all the way here, right? So that has to come with a little bit of excitement. BTR trying to get the spray downs, but just spiking a little bit, not really doing too much damage there. Alpha 7 kind of encircling them right now with Mafioso, maybe a little bit vulnerable. I imagine that this is going to be a regroup. They're currently 3-1, and they need to get Mafioso extracted from the south side of Yasnai. He's in the open fields right now, so a little bit of danger coming on through there from Horror on the north side, but they're good enough. They'll know what they're doing. They'll get away.
Yeah. So for Alpha 7, I'm going to make this point, but you got to understand first that I know they are a good team. I know they did fantastically well in their own region. But
I'm worried. What are you going to say?
I'm just saying that this is the tournament where they do need to prove themselves, because I think for PMWC it was great, and I was so happy for them. I mean, they were so emotional during that event, and it got me a little bit emotional as well, as we've all followed them for such a long time. But this is a case now where you go into PMGC, you don't want to let the foot off the gas now. You just keep things going. It must have been a real relief and a weight off the shoulders, but there still is that pressure there to come out on top here at PMGC, which has been the most prestigious event throughout the entirety of PUBG Mobile's history. And we've seen multiple teams in the past over various different esports. You know, you get that win and then suddenly fall off. I mean, S2G is actually a great example of that here in PUBG Mobile, because they fell off the radar as soon as they were able to take it home for Turkey. kind of weren't able to do anything after that. Even though I think when they did win PUBG Mobile, and I hope you'd agree with me, John, here, but I think that they were definitely the best team in the world then.
Yeah, I mean, they took that title, right, and went back in towards the next year to defend their title in Turkey itself, and just
crumbled.
Really did not. Yeah, they absolutely did crumble on their home ground, which was unfortunate. But that is how it happens, right? You cannot let up, and that's playing back into your point. I suppose it makes sense because that's the point you're making, right? For round 7, see if they can keep things going. Vampire maybe with a cut across DXavier, but instead they slice on through this hold. DXavier gets through, and Vampire, not a word to say about it.
Yeah, difficult cross actually for DXavier a lot of times across this field, so you want to go as quickly as possible. Paragon takes a couple of tags, and Major Pride going completely the opposite direction to them as Evo Station sends through. Definitely getting some scouting on board. I mean, they have a fairly secure position up towards Potato Hill, so they can play around that very nicely. It is also nice because if you are one of those folks that only tunes in for PMGC every year, welcome to the greatest tournament of PUBG Mobile in the world. But also, we had a change towards our league system throughout the entirety of the year. We now go through PMSLs, so a lot of our PMPLs have been cut now. In fact, completely cut. And we only have PMSLs, which means slots are more limited. So you're only seeing right now the best players, and it has really changed the performance in every single region. Every single region has been so close, so action packed. So this should be, if I am not mistaken, probably the most competitive PMGC of all time. Before, we used to get some teams being able to slip in towards PMGC, and although they definitely earned that spot, they were maybe not the right team to be at PMGC at that time. This time around, I think everyone who's made it to each individual group here absolutely deserves that spot. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to be up towards those top 3.
It's definitely a hotly contested spot. Group Yellow, a real tough place to try and make your mark as well. It's only the top 3 that get that direct invite to London. Sure, it's a short commute for me, but for these teams, it has been a long journey. We'll see if they can make that final step over the course of the next few days. Circle shifts central to Potato Hill. DXavier with a nice little hold there. Paragon out on a wired east flank. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him go back and rejoin with his team at this stage to try and hold the north side of Potato Hill. Vampire going to play on the east side of Pachinki Fields, which will hold down the west rotations for a lot of this map. Will be very difficult to make a maneuver on that west side. So expect the east side to be a little bit more free-flowing, but a little bit more flowing with blood as well.
No Fear picks himself up first blood in this game. Towards Mirren Sejong. Unfortunate for them to lose a player so early. They are very much out in the open, and the moment Hora has incredible sightlines over towards them. I think Mirren Sejong is in a real tough spot, actually. And it's difficult to figure out where to go. It is also interesting that so many of our teams are over towards the eastern side of the map, particularly because this was such a western-leaning plane. And I think a lot of teams, again, you take that into account. You're getting more smart teams here. All of this regional bias going into this one in terms of who's going to make it through. Do we get our best teams over towards each individual group? And all these best teams understand that if you get a western-leaning plane path, you're likely going to have a more free side of the eastern side of the map. But it's working to the disadvantage of these squads making this assumption, because everyone's made the same kind of maneuver here. So it's now extremely packed over towards the season side. Teams like Vampire, who have a ton of veteran experience in these global tournaments, they just sat pretty on the western side.
I mean, there is that element, right, of Pachinki being on the west side of the circle. The open fields that surround it, really difficult to navigate. So moving out to the east side, potentially just rotationally, a more opportune choice, right? But as soon as everybody makes that choice, no matter what it is, it's going to be the wrong choice in the end if half the lobby has also made the same decision, which sometimes just happens. Moving south from apartments, Zeus are trying to break up into the hills towards Potato Hill. DRX out to their southwest side. You can see they have seemingly scouted that. They'll know those vehicles are moving. DRX regrouping, but with that pickoff that they got onto the outpost onto Soez, DRX now cut down to 3. So the north side for Zeus looking pretty chill. Could potentially be a little bit of trouble caused by MSJ, by potentially Aura as well if they rotate out this way. But the east side, as it was always to be, is going to start to heat up now with Harame Bro, Loops, also Duerte rolling up into the fight. Loops bear the brunt of the first wave of the engagement here, but there's still plenty more to go. The dinner's still on the table as Duerte look to eat.
Loops down. Unbelievable stuff, actually. I mean, Duerte staying alive for the time being, should be able to get their squad mates back up, but this is a horrendous position to be in. The nades are going to start flowing through over towards them. Nades on that bottom step will throw one out the window, clears up one of the players over on Loops, gives them a bit more time, but Horror is into this one too now as they wrap down towards the south, and if they can, they'll get a huge amount of space to play with heading up towards that northwest side. Though I think Alpha 7 takes a really good moment here to move up towards that northwest side, and they'll likely control a lot of space going in towards the end game. I am worried though for a lot of teams, because you put DXavier in a spot like this, quite central, they are going to absolutely pop off. But Pusher makes an incredibly sneaky, stealthy assassination over towards the players inside the Wizard Tower.
3 teams start on the tower, only one remains now. Harame Bro trying to fight off against Twisted Minds, who had oversight onto this. Harame Bro losing players in that tower engagement. Now looking to try and pick the pieces up here. The Twisted Minds. A brick wall in the face of it. Fortunately, Federal's got chip in at the mortar. Rob's the one to suffer, but they will be able to pick that back up as Harame Bro do fall. And it is 3 players alive for Twisted Minds on the south side.
You know, he cleared out a bunch of players down towards this southeast. And again, this is where it all came to a head, right? Everyone assumed that, you know, there'd be more players over towards that western side. So you get this glut of teams on the east who all have to face off against one another. And it's really quite open area too. So a little bit difficult to play around with. Now it's Duarte versus Twisted Minds. And this will be likely the fight that concludes this southeast arena. One of these teams is going to have to move out and try and find themselves a position in the circle. But with Team Spirit behind Twisted Minds and Duarte right now, this is a huge opportunity for them to put up some big points, and already finding a shot over towards Robs.
Major Pride, by the way, in the meantime, has gone for a wild crasher from the west side and doing okay. There's ups and downs. Inko going to be chiming in as well onto the elimination feed, but we're still on board with this southeast fight. Coops goes down as Pusher doesn't relent for one moment. That is really good. That is an unresable Coops right there. Twisted Minds going to be taken down to 2. Duarte continue their advance from the southeast side. Team Spirit still in the way. Matic off on that wide angle. Looking to try and reposition around this. Kitsune, a deep backstop for the Team Spirit team. As Major Pride continue their roll-up, they are getting cut through. Vampire and DXavier were just so in control of that western side. Vampire lost a little bit more than maybe they wanted to on the west, but is going to be able to weather the storm for the time being. Major Pride, you want that res, stay on us too. DXavier, again, controlling on one side of the circle. I'm expecting them to march forwards.
Good quick, clean pickup there from Evo Station. Yeah, and all could crash for them, honestly. And now it's Tony K, MVP from his region, looking to play alongside with DXavier. Have had such a stronghold over towards Potato Hill. But a 1v4, not likely to go his way, and already a nade been sent out. He runs straight past it. Lamborghini spots him, has to hit some quick maneuvers here, but the rest of the team just backs up. They understand that one player can be a huge thorn in your side, and they're not letting him get anywhere near towards them. This is very well played. Lamborghini will pick up Tony K. So methodical approach there from DXavier to finish off the final player. They weren't taking any chances with him, and he's probably one of the best players not to take any chances with as well. So good heads up play from DXavier going forward. 2 loot crates there for Team Spirit. I imagine they'll take both of them, so that's a good start for them in their end game now, as we are in match 2 here of Erangel. Still plenty of games left to go today. Stick around if you want to see just how it all plays out here in Group Yellow.
So the front leaders of the pack right now go down 3 eliminations. 28 points is the mark for first place. DRX will try and chase, but that's made all the harder because Zeus are here to play yet again. Moving on in. Another knock sent back over towards Kaitse. Hyundin very, very low as Maniac bears down upon him. Looking for the healing first. The Molotov will force them to go out wide, but there's off angles to worry about. Zeus can't go in there for free. The nades continue to go through. There's the burn down. That's what they're looking for, but there's the shots from BTR. Actually chiming in from all the way out to the northeast side. They've got Horror to worry about, but they're still taking shots out towards Maniac.
Yeah, I mean, for BTR, they've been so quiet. They're even quiet in that last game. They sort of faded away without too much contest on that north side where they actually had a decent approach inwards. Hyunbin finds himself a nice DBS shot. Doesn't immediately go down, so the threat is still in play. And with 2 players knocked right now for Zeus, they want to clean up this fight as quickly as possible. The nade will do the trick. They should be able to reset, but the blue is pushing inwards. So they'll have to get a move on. Now, Inco, although they've got quite far into this game, they have been super passive, right? And it is a bit worrying because they went from an extremely aggressive play now back to their old antics of very much just holding one position on the map. PUBG Mobile has gone through various iterations over the years, but I think we're now in the era of high elims. And I think for Inco, who played basically for that chicken dinner in the past, I don't think that playstyle is going to net you all the points that you require going into these games anymore. I think you do need to still be putting up those big points in terms of eliminations, as well as getting those consistent placement points. You can't just sit in a building anymore, and that worries me because I think Inco was trying to go for that statistic last game with that crash, but didn't work out well, and immediately have retreated back into their shell here.
BTR have flexed out from this northeast side, and I feel like maybe a little bit too late to get involved. They could have done a lot more damage to Zeus had they made this move earlier, gotten ahead. But however, they have managed to put Genfos and Zuxi both ahead of the curve. Unfortunately, Rita's got their number. We'll be able to find that first point, look for the flow down, and this is a great start to this engagement for Zeus. Look at the angles they've got with these nades. That nade should do a lot of damage to BTR. Isn't going to quite tag on what they wanted. Goes a little bit short, unfortunately. The cook too long. Aura moving in this area as well. Going to make things all the harder. But Zeus are still there, ready to fight. Genfos trying to protect his down teammate. Lapar spots one. And on the back lines, BTR trying to hold it down. The buggy swept aside. That is great stuff from Lapar, but they lose Zuxi in the process, and Zeus have managed to step their way in.
It's a fantastic play there from Lapar, honestly. A necessary spray down to the player in the buggy where the bumper just falls short, taps him on the hips, and the circle will head back up towards that north side, encompassing RSG. Alpha 7 have played a fairly clean game thus far over towards that eastern side, kept things fairly calm. They realized that, they went down early on that last match. Now's the time to bring up those points in towards a consistent position. If they can get themselves a third or second place, I think they'd be happy with that. They can go more for a risky game on the next one, but right now it's about keeping up those averages. So they play something a little bit slower. BTR, on the other hand, again, this is very unlike them. However, I think this is a position they've been put in by other teams, right? They're forcing them to fight, and it just shows BTR is not a bad team. They are strong in these engagements, but they don't want to keep letting these engagements come to them.
Another knock, another flush going over for BTR. They're up against the crunch, but they know what they're doing here. 3 players still alive. Zeus still trying to make a nuisance of themselves. Eren goes down on the roll-up, and Satar able to hold the first wave. Eren has got back up here. Rita cooking this nade far forwards, and Satar is low. Needs to be careful. Heal comes through. Nade over. Goes a little bit long on the cook there, but Rita is allowed to get up to this tree. Maniac, in the meantime, has moved up to get this res, and Zeus are trying to play like an oiled machine. It's working well for them so far. They've got 6 eliminations on this match. A spray down to the backlines. The high ground not going to control Rita's advance as he continues to push on in and make trouble here on the northern side. Inco biding their time passively here. I wouldn't be too worried with a flex out from them, see if they can get involved, but Zeus still march.
Maniac's down though. Another great shot coming through from Lapar, and he has been on it. Up to 600 damage already. And there's a shot over towards Paragen. That's from Team Spirit as they attempted to move their way in. So they've been waiting for this moment. Zeus claps back a little bit over towards Satar, but that is all there is there. And Genfos looks to the final player of Zeus as Darkin hits the deck, and that will be a full wipe. And 7 elims right now for BTR from what was not an easy fight on this northwest side. And I think if you're a BTR fan, you should be cheering for that one.
They've been allowed to do this, to be honest, by Inco. The fact that Inco have not flexed out until just now, BTR have already stabilized. They've got all 3 of their players back up. The healing is coming through. Inco could have easily swept through this entire fight, picked up loads of points, but they didn't. They are passive here. Alpha 7, on the southeast side. They moved Revo out on towards the middle of the circle, got cut down, taken away from them. Now they're playing as 3. They don't have a forward base of operations, and getting out into the open going to be all the harder for it.
Yeah, I think, honestly, for Inco, they got shut down fairly early. I think they tried to flex out, but one of the players got immediately knocked on their exit. So they've just gone back to their old ways, just kind of sitting in the building. But either way, it's sort of paid off in this game already. I mean, 3 elims, and they're likely going to have a high placing here with only 6 teams remaining in the lobby. Team Spirit gets spotted by Vitali, but immediately there's a nade that comes through. And then Abete will find Levi, so that's all of DXavier gone. I think they had a good chance into this game, but their rotate was cut short by Team Spirit, who's sort of just waiting for that rotate to come through. They'd set themselves up very nicely early down towards that south side. Currently, they're holding off 2 squads with Demuerte as well as Inco, but with DXavier going down, that gives them a ton more space to play around with and try and pick up these final few members here of Demuerte, because then they can start working over towards Alpha 7, who do need to push into the circle themselves.
This is a really difficult approach, though. There's so little strong cover. It's all sloping hills that are going into this next circle. Team Spirit in a late game is a very dangerous force to be reckoned with. All 4 of their players alive, but they are very, very much trapped right now because of these long sloping angles.
This is very much an evolution of Team Spirit, by the way, as well. If you didn't get a chance to watch PMSL EMEA, Team Spirit in the past were a little bit sloppy, but I think they have leveled up massively coming into PMGC. Carrillo goes down to Demuerte, taking some nice, tasty shots through, but I think that was a knock coming through over towards Demuerte in the first place. That's from Nomi, who has had significant impact throughout the majority of PMSL EMEA. Now looks to send over towards Inco, who is their next target, because Demuerte should be shut down rather soon.
Yeah, they're out of it already. They have gone down in the crunch. Alpha 7 going down, Demuerte going down. That's a lot of east side pressure relieved, and BTR can make a move on this as well, but they're further down the hill. Team Spirit trying to take the top of the higher ground here. Inco tried to make that break, but they were a little bit slower than Team Spirit to get out and into this fight. You can see Kitsune still breaking wide, still playing on this angle, and a lot more mobility afforded by the lack of Alpha 7 and Demuerte as they get swept aside. Inco take the charge down the hill over towards BTR now. They want this fight. A swing around the back. Will this crash be more successful? BTR lose 1 player first. Remember, they're playing as 3, and immediately a second knock is found. And at the back lines, there's a response, sure, on towards Nenebete, but with the 1 player left standing, they can play off of this. And Genfos, he's going to have a real tough time to make it work, and it won't be the case. Team Spirit can move in, though, and this is how you capitalize on a fight. A third party from Team Spirit to look to close this match down.
Yeah, it's an odd play from Inco, because this essentially sacrifices their win by doing this. I get that they want to secure themselves a second place, but that just gives it over towards Team Spirit. Probably one of the easiest endings for Team Spirit. One, you can see they don't look too elated with that one, because it was just as easy as sending Matic down on an off angle, as well as the rest of the team getting involved. So very well played to them, but it was a great early game. They didn't get too involved on that south side, but instead looked to hold, which was very, very well done. And again, they were playing a 2-2 split for a long, long time, but it was just patient. It was real patient gameplay, so very well done to Team Spirit in that game.
Absolutely, really nice stuff, and getting rid of Demuerte and Alpha 7 at the right time allowed them to unleash their potential here, play off of one another beautifully, getting those assists in, making sure to make it work. You could see our players getting back over to the break rooms, going to be getting those coaching sessions on board, I'm sure. Let's head back over to the desk to break it down.
Well, Team Spirit getting the win here in our second match of Group Yellow on day 1. I know a lot of people out there going to be extremely happy about this, but I also know another person here chatting with us on the desk who was on the verge of victory with his favorite team, Inco, getting extremely close.
Oh, so close, so close. I mean, I gotta give it to them, right? They had to take this fight with the zone shift. They had to do something. They make the push on the BTR and they win it, you know. But like you were talking, Max, right? If you are the team to fight first, usually the team that ends up to the last doesn't have to worry about a thing. All they gotta do is just time it right, clean up these last players, and win it. And I mean, big ups to Team Spirit to be able to clutch it up.
Yeah, Team Spirit just looking at their fight like, free win. Pretty much. And you saw the angles they took at the end. And Nomi had the P90. They were just going to completely shred it. But also good spread when it comes to eliminations. 2 for Kitsune, 3, 3, and 2. So like the entire team put in some heavy work into this match. And just taking some good control. And especially, Jason, we saw this game. Team Spirit really only got involved in fights towards the very late game. They were playing so passive on the southern side, seeing all of these rough, hard circle shifts, and just, you know what, we don't really want to get too involved. We're just going to delay our engagement until the very end. And they just really struck at the best time in this game to really secure the win. So the timing was on point. Great job, Team Spirit.
Yeah, something they definitely have to be proud of here and happy about. Obviously, they still have a long ways to go. 24 matches in total with 22 left to go to be able to get top 3 and get through straight to the grand finals and avoid the survival stage. But obviously, a lot of credit to them. There's also a lot of other teams that we have to credit to. One for me is kind of Demuerte. I really didn't know what to expect when it comes to just raw firepower against some of these teams, because we have the best teams in the world here. It's a big step up from CSA, but as we see here, like the fight over towards the Harry Potter Tower, they're able to fight loops, defend against Harami Bro as well.
Yeah,
they did a really good job.
It was actually a very funny moment there, because I think you had 4 teams involved in that Harry Potter fight you're mentioning here, Jason. And actually, you had this fight of Harame Bro versus Twisted Minds, and Demuerte seeing that, like, wait, that means we can leapfrog and actually get in circle and hold off Twisted Minds, and they do that, and by doing that move, they not only get a bunch of eliminations, they get one of the better positions in that entire southern area of the circle. So, man, Demuerte, really good approach. The circle later on down the line, Hodrix, as we saw, was not quite favorable to them, but they make a really good game out of really a tough situation, I would say. So, good on Demuerte.
Dude, good on them, but also good on BTR, man. This team was going crazy this match, and it makes me happy to see it, because I mean, it's so crazy that we talked about dark horses at the top of the show. When I hear the word BTR as a dark horse, I'm kind of like, what? You know, because of just how powerful this name was such a long time ago. But now, I mean, they look to be in top tier form here right at the right time here, Max.
I mean, look, you're saying BTR here, Hodrix. We have to say Lepar in particular was such a standout. I think, true. Jason, you mentioned at one point getting an insane shot on a play of Horror that was in the car. Like, just absolutely fantastic shots coming out from Lepar. And yeah, I said they were a great team when it comes to rotations. I wanted to see eliminations coming out on board. They got 9 elims. Big win also for BTR this game.
Yeah, very big indeed, considering they were on 0 points at the end of the first match here. So getting 9 elims as well is going to be very important for them. But a couple of other teams we do have to mention as well. Alpha 7. Max, you were talking about it. They were on the eastern side of the zone, and we should maybe even talk about the plane path combined with the zone shifts. Alpha 7 getting kind of lucky with their compound still being in the zone. Yeah,
able to send it, playing the eastern side for the majority of this game, I think it's fair to say. A very interesting send, at least at one point, Jukes. I'm not sure if it's because of misinformation or they just wanted to try and play a bit more aggressive towards the late game of this match. But sending Revo into Demuerte with very minimal information was a bit weird to me, I would have to say. So not sure what was happening there for Alpha 7.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like they were trying to do some kind of 3-1 split, but unfortunately, Revo just got caught out. I mean, that's some of the decisions you have to make as an IGL. You know, sometimes you try to pull out something a little bit special and it doesn't work, you know, but it's still early in this tournament, so I think they have a little bit of room to kind of make some of those decisions. But at the end of the day, you know, when there's so much at stake, usually playing conservative is the better route here, Jason.
Well, I mean, taking a look at Alpha 7, I'd say in the past, we would see them in situations like this get super aggressive just because it's the Alpha 7 style. Like, we know they can contend and beat basically anyone in a fair, you know, 4-on-4 team fight. But to see them kind of be more reserved and realize, okay, we got to play the compound that we have. It's the best play to make in this situation because they're playing for the win. I think it's a good sign to how Alpha 7 mentally are approaching this event here. But we see our MVP Nomi. I'm actually really happy to see this, Max. Like, we're talking about EMEA, and Nomi for me is one of the first players to really bring around successfully that kind of 1-3 style to play these off angles, but do it well. Whereas someone else on his team didn't have too good of experience back in G Gladiators.
No, Nomi is clearly an MVP contender for this group, right? I think we can all agree on that. He just knew also in this game, Jason, he wanted to use that P90, be just like, no, I got to hold on to it. I just got to wait for the late game to try and secure the win, which ended up working great for him at the end. So look, good plays at the end of the day for Team Spirit and playing passive on the southern side until the very end of this match. Though looking at the utility players, Foops, man. The Foopsening was happening this game, Jason. All of the smokes that were used in a Harry Potter building fight allowed them to create an escape route to, and as we said earlier, leapfrog ahead of Twisted Minds. So, man, Foops, man, he's always there, lingering, waiting for his time to strike, and here really enabled his team to make that rotation ahead of Twisted Minds.
Now take a look at the damage here. You can see Federales with 1,100 damage being done here in this last match, which is, again, for not to like downplay them at all, but like when you're not playing like the PMSL of SCA, you're not playing against the best teams consistently, like day in, day out. To see them already have such a strong start here in Group Yellow really gives me vibes of what Coops was saying of SCA being the strongest region. Of course, he was stationed there, Major Pride with 1,000 damage as well.
Yeah, look at the smokes used. It's so crazy to watch. I mean, the intensity and just 2 games already. We've only seen 2 matches, but the speed is at another level here at PMGC, and it just goes to show that all these teams, I mean, they deserve to be here, because I think if they get the right position, they're going to take full advantage of it.
I was looking at some of the player stats also. I think we just saw Becca also have another game with over 1,000 damage. That's 2 games in a row, by the way, for Becca. So, like, he is being impactful, even in games where we didn't really see too much from Major Pride this game. He's still a part of the equation, and currently, as we can see, Jason, in first place, 28 points. Of course, this second game was a bit tougher for them, but they still bring some eliminations on board. So, they're always there, part of the conversation, and so far, holding strong.
Yeah, give them a little of a buffer, right? It is a 4-day long event. We said at the top of the show, you still have the ability to mess up or not perform so well in some of these matches and still hold on relatively highly. I mean, they had 25 points, so they got 3 eliminations in this last game. Team Spirit to get a big step up as they get second place. But let's be honest, we're going to see teams go from very low to very high off the back of 1 win alone. And speaking of like lows and highs here, Hora, the push that you spotted, Max, into